Do not scroll away from this one. Not tonight. Set the phone down in your two hands and be still with me here, just for a moment or two. Because there is a sentence you have been repeating to yourself for years now, quietly, like a verdict, and I have come to answer it. My beloved child, somewhere in the long years behind you, you made up your mind that it is too late. Too late for you. Too late to begin again. Too late to hope for anything new. Too late to be anything more than what your losses have left you. You did not decide it all at once. It settled on you slowly, one disappointment at a time, until you simply stopped expecting the story to change. So now, you watch the years pass the way you watch the street from a window, certain your part in them is over. You have begun to speak of your own life in the past tense. The dreams are folded up and put away in a drawer you rarely open, and when some small, foolish hope stirs in you, you hush it quickly before it can hurt you again. I saw you fold those dreams away. I was there for every quiet surrender. And I did not draw you into this stillness to agree with you that it is over. So do not close this. Stay in the quiet with me a little longer, and let me speak to the part of you that believes the best of your life is already behind you.
Let me show you what I see when I look at you, so you will know I am not speaking to a stranger. I see someone who has begun to count in losses. There was a life you meant to live once. You can still remember the shape of it, the way you thought your years would go, back when you were young enough to think that way. And somewhere between then and now, that life quietly slipped past you. Not in one great theft, in 1,000 ordinary days that you were sure you would have time to make right later. And now you look up, and later has arrived, and you are standing in a life you did not quite choose, wondering how the years went so fast and left so little of what you hoped for. I see the rooms that used to be full, a table that once had more chairs pulled up to it, a house that was once loud with people who needed you and is quiet now in a way that aches worse than any noise ever did. Some of you have laid someone into the ground, a husband, a wife, the one who was meant to grow old beside you, and a part of you was buried in that same soil, and you have not felt like beginning anything since. The world tells you to move on, as though grief were a door you could simply walk through. But you know better. You carry them with you into every silent evening. And I see the dreams you buried while you were still alive. The things you meant to do and become and mend before life crowded them out. The letter you never wrote. The road you never took. The gift in you that you set down to care for everyone else and never picked back up. You have told yourself it was foolish to want those things, that wanting was for the young, and that your part now is only to be grateful and quiet and small. So you folded the wanting away, and you have grown almost proud of how little you let yourself hope. Then there is the regret, which is the heaviest of all, because it is not only what was taken from you that keeps you awake. It is what you fear you wasted, the years you gave to the wrong things, the love you withheld or spent poorly, the chances you let pass while you were afraid or angry or simply too tired to reach for them. You lie in the dark and you add it all up, and the sum keeps coming out the same. Too late. Too late to undo it. Too late to get those years back. Too late to become the person you might have been if only you had known sooner. I know this ache in you. I have watched you carry it quietly while you told everyone you were fine. I have seen you smile at the grandchildren and mean it, and then go home to a loneliness you would never let them see. I have heard the smallest, most secret prayer of your heart, the one you barely dare to pray. Is there anything left for me? Or is my part in the story simply finished now, and all that remains is to wait quietly for the end? Hear me now, gently, for this is where I turn. I did not name any of this to press you further down into it. I named it so you would know that I see the whole of it, the losses, the wasted years, the buried dreams, and that I have looked at your life and have not agreed with your verdict. There is something you have left out of all your careful adding. Stay with me, and let me show you what it is. Now hear the first thing I need you to carry out of this room, and let it reach the place where the verdict has been living. Through every one of those years you now call wasted, I never once took my eyes off you. Not off the good years, and not off the ones you count as loss. When you gave your best strength to a work that never thanked you, I was watching. When you loved someone who could not love you back the way you needed, I was there in the room. When you lay awake through the long stretch of a hard marriage, or a hard illness, or years of raising children with hands that were always full and a heart that was often empty, I saw all of it. Not one of those years passed by me unseen. And here is what you have never let yourself believe. I did not look at those years the way you look at them. You see wreckage. You see time you can never get back, a field left to go to weeds while the good planting seasons slipped away. But I do not count as lost what you count as lost. I keep a different account than the one you keep in the dark. You have been reading your own life like a book you have already finished, closing the cover, setting it on the shelf, certain there are no pages left worth turning. But you are not the author of it. I am. And I do not write endings the way the world writes them. Listen to what I promised long ago to a people who had watched years of their lives eaten away by ruin until they were sure nothing could ever be recovered. As the prophet Joel, chapter 2, verse 25 says, I will repay you for the years the locusts have eaten. Hear what I said, and do not shrink it into something smaller than it is. The locusts. That is my own word for the years that get devoured by grief, by hardship, by other people's cruelty, by your own mistakes, by plain, hard seasons that no one chose. I know that some of your years were eaten alive. I watched it happen, and it grieved me as it grieved you. But hear the promise on the far side of it. I repay, I restore, I give back. Not always the same thing you lost, and not always in the shape you expect. But I am the God who takes the eaten years and brings something living up out of them again. The world has no answer for wasted time. It can only tell you to make your peace with the loss and expect nothing further. But I am not the world. I have never yet met a life too far gone for me to plant something new in it. Not one. The soil you believe is dead is only resting. and I am not finished tending it. So before I ask you to hope for anything, I ask only that you believe this one thing tonight. The God who watched every lost year has not written those years off, and He has not written you off either. Your eyes may have closed on the story. Mine never did. And let me show you now that this is not merely something I say. It is something I have done before, for a woman who was every bit as certain as you are that her life was over. Let me tell you about a woman named Naomi, whose name once meant pleasant, because that was the life she expected to have. She left her home in Bethlehem during a famine and went with her husband and her 2 sons into a foreign country called Moab to find bread and begin again. And for a while, perhaps, there was hope in it. Her sons grew and married, but then the losses began, and they did not stop. Her husband died in that far country, and then, in a grief almost too great to speak, both of her sons died as well. She was left with nothing that a woman of her age and her world was meant to have. No husband, no sons, no grandchild on her knee. Only 2 widowed daughters-in-law, a long road home, and old age closing in around empty hands. So she turned back toward Bethlehem, and she told her daughters-in-law to leave her, to go home to their own mothers and find new husbands and new lives, because she had nothing left to give them. One of them, Orpah, wept and went, but the other, Ruth, would not go. Ruth held on to her and said, "Where you go, I will go, and your people will be my people, and your God, my God." And so the 2 of them, an old grieving widow and a young foreign one, came into Bethlehem together with nothing at all. And listen to what Naomi said when she arrived, because you have said it too, in your own words. The women of the town saw her and hardly knew her, worn as she was, and they asked, "Is this Naomi?" And she answered them, "Do not call me Naomi. Do not call me pleasant any more. Call me Mara. Call me bitter, for the Almighty has dealt bitterly with me. I went out full," she said, "and the Lord has brought me back empty." She stood there certain that her story was finished, that the best of it lay behind her in the graves of Moab, and that nothing waited ahead but a quiet, bitter old age. But I was not finished. I was already at work inside the very things she thought were the ruins of her life. That foreign daughter-in-law she believed had nothing to offer went out into the fields to gather leftover grain so the 2 of them could eat. And the field she came to belonged to a man named Boaz, a good man, a close relative, one who held the right to redeem what the family had lost. I was writing a new beginning for Naomi, and she could not read a single line of it while it was being written. Boaz took Ruth as his wife. He redeemed the land, and the name, and the family that Naomi had buried in her heart. And Ruth bore a son, and they laid that baby boy in the arms of old, bitter, emptied Naomi. And something in her that had been dead since Moab began to breathe again. Hear what the women of Bethlehem said to her then. As the book of Ruth, chapter 4, verse 15 says, "He will renew your life and sustain you in your old age."
For your daughter-in-law, who loves you, and who is better to you than 7 sons, has given him birth. He will renew your life in your old age. Spoken over a woman who came home empty and told everyone to call her bitter. That child on her lap was named Obed, and Obed became the father of Jesse, and Jesse became the father of David, the king. The emptied widow who was certain it was too late became the great-grandmother of a king. part of the very line through which I would one day send salvation into the world. It was not too late for Naomi. Her new beginning came in her later years, on the far side of everything she had buried. And just as I did not forget Naomi in her empty old age, I have not forgotten you in yours.
Now let me tell you the truth about the years you have grieved as wasted, because there is a strange thing hidden inside them that you have never been able to see. You have believed that the losses were only losses, that the hard years took from you and gave nothing back, that the grief and the waiting and the disappointments were pure subtraction, leaving you with less of a life than you began with. But that is not how I work the soil of a person. Nothing I allow into your life is only subtraction. Gold is not made pure except by passing through fire, and the fire does not feel like a gift while you are inside it. It feels like being consumed. Yet all the while it is burning away what you never needed and leaving what is true. Look at Naomi again. Those bitter years in Moab were not empty, though they felt like nothing but graves. It was inside her loss that Ruth was bound to her. It was her very emptiness that made the room for a redeemer.
The seasons she called bitter were the ones I was quietly using to carry her toward a beginning she could never have imagined. I was not punishing her. I was preparing her. And the same is true of the years that you have mourned. I know what this costs your pride to hear, so receive it gently. You are not too old, and you are not too late, and you are not too far past your best days for me to begin something new in you. Those are the world's measurements, and the world is nearly always wrong about where a life is going. It looks at gray hair and a tired body and a long list of losses and says, that story is over. I look at the same soul and see ground that has finally been broken open enough to plant in. Hear the word I speak to you now, plainly. The same word I once spoke to a people who could not stop staring backward at everything they had lost. As Isaiah chapter 43, verses 18 and 19 say, forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? Do you hear how tender that is, and how firm? Forget the former things. I am not asking you to pretend they did not happen, or to feel no grief over what was lost. I am asking you to stop letting the past be the only thing your eyes are fixed on. Because while you have been staring behind you at the ruins, I have been doing something new in front of you. Now it springs up. It is already beginning. The only trouble is that you have not perceived it yet, because you were so sure there was nothing left to look for. Understand what I mean by a new thing. I have never dealt in the bright, empty promises the world hands out. I do not mean I will give you back your youth, or undo every loss, or hand you an easy road with no more sorrow on it. A new beginning in me is not the erasing of what you have suffered. It is a living thing I grow up out of the very ground where you buried your hope. Sometimes it is a purpose you never expected to be handed this late. Sometimes it is a love or a task, or a person who needs exactly what your long years have taught you. Sometimes it is simply joy returning, quietly, to a heart that was certain it had felt the last of it. I have begun new things in people far later than you think possible. I made Abraham a father when he was old and long past hoping for it. I gave Sarah a son years after she had laughed at the very idea. I have never once been limited by how few years a person believes they have left. So lay down the arithmetic of what you think you have run out of. That was never the number that decided your future. And lay down, too, the striving that says you must somehow force the new thing into being yourself, quickly, before your time is gone. You cannot make a seed grow by pulling on it. The new thing is mine to bring, in its own hour. Your part tonight is not to strive for it. Your part is to rest, and to let me begin.
So here is where I want to leave you tonight. Not with a task, but with a rest. The world lives by one hard rule, and it has taught that rule to you for so long you believed it was simply true. The rule says life runs in one direction only, that youth is the time for beginnings, and age is only for endings, that the clock runs down, the seasons close behind you one by one, and past a certain point there is nothing ahead but the slow work of letting go. By that rule, your best days are spent, and your days of hoping are over. But I am the exception to that rule, and I always have been. In my house, a life does not simply run downhill toward its ending. I begin things late. I bring streams up out of wastelands. I lay children on the laps of grieving widows and call it the renewing of their lives. I am not bound by the calendar you have been counting down, because I am the one who made time, and I am not running out of it, and neither in me are you. A new season is coming for you.
Not the one the world sells, with its promises of sudden youth and easy fortune. Something quieter and far stronger than that. A season where the past loosens its grip on you. A season where hope, which you thought had died of old age, stirs again in the morning. A season where you wake and find, to your own surprise, that you are still becoming, still wanted, still part of a story I am telling. You did not miss it. It was waiting for you on the far side of the long grief, and I am leading you into it, beginning tonight. So rest now. You do not have to work out what the new thing is before you sleep. You do not have to hurry it, or earn it, or make up for the lost years by morning. Your only work tonight is to set the verdict down, the one that told you it was too late, and to let me be the one who decides what your remaining years are for.
If these quiet evenings steady your heart, come back to me tomorrow night, and the night after that. I will have a fresh word set aside for you each time the house goes dark. Come close now, and let your Father lay a blessing over you before your eyes grow too heavy to hold. May the word too late lose its grip on your heart tonight and slip away into the dark like a thing you no longer have to carry. May you wake tomorrow with one small, foolish, holy hope stirring in you again. And this time, may you not hush it. May you know, deep in the place where the grief has lived so long, that the God who renewed an old and empty woman has not forgotten how to renew you. And may you believe, before you fall asleep, that the best thing I will ever do in you may still be ahead of you and not behind. I am your father. I saw every year you called lost, and I have not lost you. Your story is not finished. I am still writing it, and my endings are nothing like the world. So if even one word tonight found the place where you had given up, you do not need to answer me with much. Only the smallest sound of trust will do, no louder than a breath let out in the dark. Whisper it now. Amen. I heard that one. I hear everyone. Rest now, my beloved child. It is not too late, and I am not going anywhere. Sleep, and let the new morning come. I am keeping watch, and I am your father, and I am only just beginning.